Hi, my name is Agent Burgos, and I am representing Marcus, Tullius, and Ciro in the case that Caesar's body should be dumped in the river because he's a tyrant.
Hi, my name is Rowan Bimbo. I'm representing Marcus Antonius. My argument is Caesar should be held a public funeral.
So why do you think Caesar should be held a public funeral?
Caesar should be held a public funeral because holding a public funeral for Caesar will allow the public to mourn and gain closure after the death of this great man. This man was a leader and was beloved by the masses. This will allow Rome to move forward as a republic and open the gates for the next greats to arise in Rome.
You see, but I feel like Rome can't move forward as a republic if they honor Caesar's death. Because by honoring him, they're accepting that he was a good ruler and that he was loved, but indeed he wasn't loved since he was murdered by us and his own people. And also giving him a death, a good death, not a good death. In essence, a good death and a good funeral will show that we tolerate tyranny, and in doing so, we encourage others and supporters to do that. And by giving him a death that represents that he was disrespected, such as putting his body in the river, we are giving, in essence, a symbol that democracy will continue and that his succession would not continue as Rome being a dictatorship rather than a democracy.
You say that as if Caesar's time as a dictator was bad. During his time as a dictator, Caesar brought great growth to Rome. He did so by enlarging the Senate, creating much needed government reforms, as well as decreasing Rome's debt. This demonstrates his commitment to improving the welfare of the state and its citizens.
But Caesar could have done that just as an elected official, not try to name himself as emperor. If he really had Rome's best at heart, he could have held democratic elections, but he didn't want that. He wanted to have a succession with people that he chose to lead after him instead of being elected by his senators or the people. And again, I reiterate that he could have done that with Rome's best at heart, but his intentions are questionable.
I find it hypocritical of you to say that, since you want this republic to stay a democracy, but you've killed men and haven't even, without giving them even a fair trial. That doesn't sound like democracy to me. That sounds more like you trying to keep wealthy in power, more like a plutocracy.
First off, the reason why those men were killed because they were direct attack against democracy. The extreme measures had to be taken because they were against Rome continuing as a democratic state. And second of all, if we're talking about power, you're next in line to secede, and you're Caesar's number one pick, essentially. So one can argue that you want him to have positive influence and want his decisions before he was murdered to continue, because that will make you emperor.
Caesar would have wanted what's best for the people. If I was to gain the dictator position after Caesar passed, I would have just continued what he wished. I would have earned this position by loyalty and trust, and continued what Caesar wished for in Rome.
That might be the case, but if you were as good as you say you are, or that you were going to be, you easily could be elected by the people. And that's the case. Have the people elect you, and you can do whatever you want with Caesar's body. But again, if you take power without being elected, then you're just another emperor, and the democratic values that Rome holding on to would disappear forever. Especially if you give him this funeral that you're going for. The people will see it as that it was okay that he was being a tyrant, and he was not even a tyrant. He was a tyrant on the rise because he was making rash decisions without embracing his advisors or going to the Senate to talk to, or the senators to talk to them.
You say this, but you truly only want what's best for the wealthy in this republic. Caesar would work towards bringing wealth to the citizens and letting them rise.
Caesar was only doing that for public opinion. Knowing Caesar personally, I don't think he had the common people or the peasants at heart. He easily was probably doing that for public opinion and just so that he can stay in power or be supported when he eventually completely knew himself as emperor and have our own people against us.
You say that, but I've proof that Caesar wanted best for the lower people. Me myself, I was from the lower class before I met Caesar, and I worked my way up through the military ranks and fought beyond next to Caesar throughout the second half of his conquest of Gaul, and then I worked with him throughout his way back to Rome.
Yeah, but a good general or a good soldier won't make a good leader.
You could say otherwise. Most leaders in Rome have been generals and soldiers and fought alongside people in battle, including all the senators, and then there's Pompey, who had the civil war because of Caesar and took it to Egypt, which then Caesar took over Egypt and gave it to Cleopatra, which then brought more wealth and power to Rome.
But I feel like at a time of peace, and that just after a civil war, we do need a time of peace, not another general or former veteran in office. Somebody we can use a new set of ideals, not ideals, but a new set